I get young people as well as old people who love to stretch, but I see that their walking patterns are still very compressed, right? Perhaps the most common pattern that I see is they tend to use more of the hip flexors, the muscles in the front of their bodies as they walk, instead of getting this posterior kinetic chain. If you just start walking and going around your own room, you can get a sense, how is your stride? How long is your stride? And then you could just begin to increase your stride, let's say by about 10%, and feel the difference. As you feel that difference, notice, where are you feeling more muscle activation? Where are you feeling muscles lengthening? A longer stride is going to increase your hip extension, right? That's where your knee is going behind your hip. As your hip extends, you're going to get lengthening in the hip flexor, and you're going to feel some muscle activation in your buttock, as well as your hamstring. So walk around with the intention to lengthen your stride just 10%. And now compress it. Shorten your stride from your normal pattern, 10%, and feel the difference. You don't have to get too technical in terms of which muscles are doing this or that. Just feel the difference. And there's nothing wrong with walking in a short stride. It's just a question, are you being efficient as you're doing it? So when I say a person is having a compressed gait or walking pattern, I'm referring to a person who's wasting a lot of energy and expending too much muscle tension as they walk. People with back pain, for example, might be relying too much on the muscles here in the front, the hip flexors, more specifically the superficial hip flexors. Good. Now imagine you have a line on the outside of your leg, right there through the midline, like you're wearing a tuxedo pants. Right, so that line basically goes down from your hip to your knee to your ankle. And just focus on that line as it goes behind the midline of your torso. Right, so all you're going to do, you could just focus on one leg, or if you're feeling like you can focus on both, you focus on one line goes behind you, and then the other line goes behind you. And you just continue to shift your attention into that space behind you. And notice what you feel has changed. Right? The line goes behind you. Right? What you'll feel is that you have more awareness of the muscle kinetic chain behind your leg. Right? So more in the hamstring, more in the butt. You'll start to feel more in your whole back, up here in your latissimus dorsi. And of course, in the front, you would feel more lengthening because your stride will just naturally start to lengthen. Another strategy, instead of focusing on the line, could be just to focus on the relationship of your knee to your hip, which is the same bone, your thigh bone or your femur. I can focus on the knee going behind my hip. Then it goes in front of my hip, and it goes behind. You have to do this slowly. Otherwise, your mind will tend to wander, right? But 2 points are relatively easy to keep track of. The knee goes behind the hip. A more general image could be that you're a big boat that has a wake behind it in the water. So you can just walk and sense the wake that you're leaving behind you. Just pay attention to the world behind you. People are too focused on what's coming in front of them. Just notice the space behind you. We can do the same thing with the arms or the shoulder blades, right? The chest goes backwards. Of course, the other side goes forwards. Right? But if you shift your attention more to the part of yourself that's moving back through space, in all likelihood, you'll get a better balanced pattern of walking. Right, so those are my basic recommendations for starting to improve the activation of the posterior kinetic chain. Using observation of space behind you is the biggest thing that you could do. You could attempt to increase your stride length, say 5 or 10%, but do it in such a way where you're more mindful in a kinesthetic manner, right? So you're sensing what it feels like as you increase the distance of your stride instead of forcing it, right? If you force it through muscular effort, it'll never be sustainable. Focusing on sensation, reducing unnecessary muscular tension. These are the strategies that will tend to draw the attention of your brain and over time allow you to improve your walking pattern.